What's the deal with Freddy Krueger's iconic red and green sweater? It boils down to science, bitch. No, really. Director Wes Craven said he read an article in Scientific American that the hardest colors for the human eye to see next to each other are red and green. So, he made that decision just to torture his audience. Respect. Subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, and if we get to 100 likes on this video, I'll do 10 things you didn't know about A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Now that's science.
Yes, science!
Tina's death scene is horrendous and incredibly creative, but how they achieved the effect is even crazier. The crew created a rotating room, nailing down all the furniture, enabling Amanda Weiss to move around the walls and ceiling. Unfortunately, the room disoriented her badly. Even when she wasn't on the set, she felt like the room was still spinning. For Glenn's death scene, the rotating room was used once again. This time, they turned the room upside down and blood flowed everywhere. Literally. 500 gallons of fake blood flooded the set, which got all over the wires, causing electrical issues, and even one crew member was electrocuted during the scene. Multiple events inspired Wes Craven to create A Nightmare on Elm Street. Here, I'll let him tell you.
The beginning of A Nightmare on Elm Street really came to me with a series of articles in the LA Times about young men who were dying in the middle of nightmares. They were specifically from the Asian Rim. In this particular case, a young man had a severe nightmare and told his parents, "I can't go back to sleep, I'm going to die, I just know it." And the father was a physician and said, "Let me give you some sleepy pills." The kid didn't sleep the first night, and then in the second night, he didn't sleep again, and then it became clear that he was trying to stay awake despite everything. And finally, the kid fell asleep, and they took him upstairs and put him to bed, thinking, thank God, that little crisis is over. And in the middle of the night, they heard screams and ran into the room, and he was thrashing on the bed horribly. Literally before they got to him, he fell still, and he was dead.
And just in case you're not feeling bad enough for this kid yet, keep watching.
In the aftermath, the parents found all the sleeping pills. He had not taken them, he had hidden them in the bed. And they also found a Mr. Coffee machine in his closet with a hidden extension cord that went to the nearest plug, which was, to me, it was just so out of a movie. What if there was somebody in his dream that was, who killed him, what killed him? I said, okay, so what if it's a guy? My old Bible training, the sins of the parents being visited on the children. I said, perfect, it's something the parents did to him, and just kind of pieced it together from there.
Craven was also inspired by some traumatic childhood events.
There was this incident of myself as a child lying in bed at night and heard this mumbling and couldn't figure out what the hell it was, so I crept to the window, and there was this man who, if you would say, oh, put Freddy down the street, that's what he would look like, Somehow he sensed that somebody was watching, and he looked right up into my eyes. When I jumped back in the room and sat on the edge of the bed waiting for him to go away. When I went back, and he was still there, and he just went, and then he started walking. The thing that struck me most about that particular man was that he had a lot of malice in his face, and he also had this sort of sick sense of humor about how delightful it was to terrify a child.
And where does the name Freddy come from?
Fred Krueger, Mom. Fred Krueger.
It was the name of Wes's childhood bully. I hate bullies. Charlie Sheen auditioned for the role of Glenn and was almost hired, but he wanted too much money, and New Line Cinema couldn't afford him.
Charlie Sheen wanted the role, but he wanted $3,000 a week, and we didn't have it.
With Sheen out of the picture, how did they decide to cast Johnny Depp as Glenn? Easy. Wes Craven's daughter told the director that Depp was so dreamy that he must cast him.
My daughter said, "Dad, Johnny Depp." I said, "Really? But he looks kind of sickly and pale." She says, "He's beautiful." And that was it.
Freddy has been called a pizza face for many years, but few people know how close to the truth they actually are. Makeup effects artist David Miller was having pizza at a restaurant one night when he began playing with the pizza on his plate. He was shaping the cheese around the pepperoni and ended up making Freddy's face on the pizza, and the rest is history.
It's a boy!
The next fact comes with a bit of controversy. We know how fans reacted when someone else tried to take on the role of Freddy Krueger, besides Robert Englund. But what if Englund had never been cast as Krueger? Well, that's almost what happened. Actor David Warner, most known for his roles in Titanic, Star Trek, Tron, and In the Mouth of Madness, was originally cast as Freddy Krueger. As a matter of fact, makeup effects artists even tested some designs with the actor in mind. This image is a popular one among Nightmare fans, as they believe it's Warner himself in the makeup. It's been proven that it's not, and despite makeup effects artists claiming that Warner was in line for the role, the validity of this claim has been disputed by not only Bob Shaye and Wes Craven, but by Warner himself. He had this to say: "People have often asked me, well, why didn't you play Freddy Krueger? I honestly cannot remember being asked to play the character at all. I was very busy at the time and meeting a lot of people. So unless my agent got it and turned it down without my knowing it, which would be unethical, I don't really remember anything in my past regarding A Nightmare on Elm Street." Who do you believe? Was Warner the original Freddy Krueger? Leave your comment below and let me know. There's no disputing that Freddy Krueger's glove is not only iconic, but it's one of the scariest and most creative slasher weapons we've ever seen. That being said, it's a ruthless implement of pain, and that's even true for Krueger himself. The first time actor Robert Englund put the glove on, it cut him. Hey, you be good. New Line Cinema was so hard up for money that the printing lab wouldn't release the print of the film to the studio, because they hadn't been paid. Bob Shaye, founder of New Line Cinema, would even go as far as putting his house on the line to raise finances for the film, which cost $1.8 million to make. An amount of money the film would make back after its release in only 72 hours.
Bob Shaye had basically leveraged his ass off on the first one. He'd sold all the rights off to get the movie made.
Wes Craven wasn't the only legendary horror director on set. Sean Cunningham, that's right, the man who brought us the classic Friday the 13th, directed some scenes for A Nightmare on Elm Street. Actress Heather Langenkamp may have beat Freddy up pretty good at the end of A Nightmare on Elm Street, but she had to beat out over 200 actresses just to get the chance. The competition was stiff for the role of Nancy Thompson. Actresses who tried out include Jennifer Grey, Demi Moore, Courtney Cox, Tracy Gold, and Claudia Wells. I don't know about you, but I think Freddy would have looked great in a Talk Horror t-shirt. Make sure you click on that link in the description below and check out some of our awesome designs.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. You gonna take that dip?